Hi, I'm going to show you today a bunch of statues and building remains that are on Mars. I was skeptical that Mars had life previously, but now I'm asking, after I found these things, why aren't they advertised and why isn't anybody? I mean, I see things of, I don't know, you can't explain them and they don't look like anything. They're like keyholes and things like that are just impressions in the ground, and they're making a big deal of it. And these things that I found, I think, are a big deal. And these are right on Google Earth. Anybody can go and find them. And all you have to do is go up here to View on Google Earth, go down to that, go to Explore, and hit Mars, and you're there. Um, so these things are easy to find. You look for this spot on Mars where, actually, all the information is down here in this area where the I guess GPS coordinates are, or whatever you call them, and the elevations and all of that. But anyway, look for the spot on Mars where there used to be this ancient, must have been a freshwater ocean, or else there'd be a lot of salt residue around. But you could see, used to be an ocean there, a huge ocean. And my theory is what happened to Mars is in the asteroid belt came into being. There must have been either a collision of planets or else something hit a planet there and smashed into a billion pieces. And Mars was probably on the other side of the solar system. It got plummeted by billions of asteroids, and that's primarily what the demise of Mars was. I'm sure it got hit by a few, but we were on the other side of the solar system, so it didn't affect us so that much. But there was some kind of life on Mars, and it was kind of humanoid. So find this ocean, and this right here where the hand is, this is where the SpaceX rover landed, and it's running around this area here. But unfortunately, they should have landed over here where these little yellow dots are on Mars. This is like a peninsula that was on the ocean or something. It appears an inlet was here. This was up here at this point. The depth of this is around 9,000 feet, but negative 9,000 feet, so it's a pretty deep ocean up here. This inlet was like a negative 4,000 feet, so it was more shallow. Now these canal things that you can see here, I think they weren't canals, they were underground actually. But I'll start by what I did first as I went along the shoreline of all around here, trying to find anything that looked like a building or ruins or anything, because obviously life would, center around an ocean or water. And here's where I found my first building. It looks like some kind of I would call it a marina building. This is probably a possible 8,000 foot long ship of some kind that's buried, possibly, or it could be a rock, I don't know. But here's the building right here, and it's square, it has square sides to it, and it also has columns. There's column, column in there. And you can almost see spaces, where it'd be. This was probably another building right behind it that was probably the administration building or something. Anyway, all this stuff is covered in muck, dust about 300 feet deep or more, I figured. So I found the first building. I figured, well, that's not enough to say, hey, there was life on Mars at one point. So I came and I decided came up this way, and I decided to go to these canals, because I figured life was going to be probably along these canals and things. And I got up to this area where it was scooped out, and this looks like a big ice cream scoop here. Like somebody came along and just scooped it out with an ice cream scoop. But I think it was all underground at one time, as you can see, supported by this, these big walls, these big rock walls, and this was on top of them. And of course, got all washed away and messed up, and the oceans were sloshing around, and all this stuff happened. But right next to it, then I found this building, another building, and this one blew my mind. Here we got the same thing, column, except that one you can see a little bit of a column cap, and right on the other side of this column here is a little outcrop, looks like a little part of the building that's smaller, and it has small columns, except these columns go underground about 300 feet, I figure, maybe 200 feet exposed or more, and so they're massive. These columns are just massive. See, that was still polished a little bit there on that one too. And then these little columns are massive too, but yeah. Anyway, right next to it, it's kind of a feature here. Kind of a strange thing. It almost looks like some kind of a statue, but it could be a piece of mud. But it doesn't look like a meteor impact. This definitely doesn't look like a meteor impact. I mean, this is some kind of a right angle deal, left angle deal. May have been where this item was put, but I think it was more or less mounted around in this spot here and got blown over that way. This is about 1.5 miles long statue of a bull figure of some kind. Can't really figure out what it is, but let's see, again, a position there. And here you can clearly see some kind of a muzzle. You can almost see a mouth, a nostril, an eye, an ear, cheekbones, torso, big butt, a leg coming down is broken off. That one's broken off. Front legs are broken off. Looks like these could be the remnants of a couple of the legs right here. So that's why I think it was probably originally standing around in this position. But it's buried about 300 feet underneath the silt and dust too, and all we see is the top portion exposed. Must have been washed away by water at one time when the floods came. And then right here, this looks like I'll back out a little bit. This looks like another building in here. There's nothing left of it, but it does have, a weird design to it, or weird shape to it. This here looks like some kind of a pyramid, with part of it blown off. And this looks like a roundabout, like you'd have on Earth, where things drive around it, and there's probably statue debris in the middle of it here, I would imagine, or some kind of, debris left over or something. And this looks like a part of a statue there, a couple of legs sticking up, torso, the top of it's blown off. Probably some more buried statues, but I can't tell. Well, I had to find more than that, so I backed out and I went down the canal a ways. Oh, not to mention over here, I forgot. Little building with columns. These are pretty observant columns. This almost looks like a round structure, something you see like on the White House. Then you got a column there, a column there, a column there. Can't see the other ones, but and the whole back half of it's gone or under muck and debris. So that's another weird one, and they're all over here. If you look, you can find other ones too. They're just not as apparent. But anyway, I went back over to the underground canals, and I came down here a little ways, and I went, what the heck is that? Right in here. And I found a statue graveyard. This here is some kind of a building, first on the left here. We'll zoom in on it a bit. Now this is not a normal shape. I mean, this doesn't occur normally. You got the shadow of the sun coming this way when this was taken, and there's a shadow here. It shows clearly this is rounded off. So this is some kind of another building that's, you know, underneath a bunch of junk. And then over right on the other side of it here, you've got statues galore. I don't know, there might be some there, but you can't tell what they are. Maybe a head of something there. But this here is definitely a humanoid type of statue that has been fallen over. Here you got the head of it. You might be able to recognize a face or a beard or something on that. And down here is the arm and a sleeve. You've got a hand. And on the other side you have the same thing. An arm coming down, and you can see a hand there. You can almost see the fingers underneath the dust of that hand, just like the fingers on that side. And it's broken off, of course, and I figured this was about 1,500 feet high when it was standing, were my measurements that I took on it. And down at the bottom of it, it looks like there was a chalice, kind of a thing sitting on a chalice sitting on the base. And you can see this chalice here has a rounded bottom, and it's rounded at the cup, has an open top. Because the light's coming from this way, you can actually see that pretty well. It really freaked me out. But right next to that is another statue, and this one is even stranger. It looks like a Easter Island head almost. But you can see it's got the top of the head, the nose. It's got eyes, 2 eyes there, and it's got the ear, and it also sits on a column. You can see the column here is a column cap where the head sits on it, and it's polished and it goes into the ground on each side. Huge column. It must be 300 feet in, 300 or 500 feet into the ground there. And then here's another small sphinx-like with 2 legs and a head that's mostly buried in so much dust on it you can't really tell. But there are all sorts of these things all over the place. Another building, remains of some kind of a building, I think had columns. You could barely make them out though. But then I went over to the side over here. I mean, here your statue graveyard up here, but right below it here, I saw this strange building, and then I noticed it had kind of a feature around it too. It kind of goes around this way. It's a kind of a building and a strange looking thing here too, like was up at the other building. So this must have been some kind of a building here, and it must have been some kind of a deal-a-jig that went around, but what made me say the aha moment was right in here. We have a section of it that has columns. Column there, column there, column there, column there. So this was probably looked like kind of a long enclosed walkway or something. I don't know. But that was very strange. And right next to it was the biggest aha. This looks like an Egyptian structure, some sort. I mean, it could be in Egypt. It's got polished columns still. They still have polished shine to them, there and there. And there's another one underneath there, another one underneath in there, you can see. But there's not much of the building left except for those columns. But very strange. You know, column caps too. You know, it's just undeniable that that's some kind of a structure. Or was some kind of a structure. So all of these things, you know, came into play here. And they're all in this one area, and you can go to Google Mars yourself and look around. You know, the one building's up here, and someone's up there, here, and over here. I mean, they're all over the place, except it's hard to find because most of them are, you know, gone. But a few remnants still remain. This is the best area I can think of right here, with a lot of statues and building remains. So, yeah, They're all in the same area, see? And and it survived the big meteor impacts, I guess, because they were, probably got covered and then washed away by water, and some of them were exposed again a little bit. This is where they should be landing, right in here, and I would take and land my rovers here, and I go over and investigate these buildings, remains here, and see if they're real. Because to me, look at that. You have a graveyard of statues, and you've got the remains of a building, and the remains of another building. I mean, just think if you could go in, get into those things, and dig down, and you might be able to find something that shows evidence of some kind of civilization was there. But like I said, my big question now is, how did statues like this, and how did buildings of this type of construction end up on Earth in Egypt? But the Egyptians, there are buildings like this there in Egypt that were built way before the Egyptians even got there in a previous civilization. So, there's a lot of questions here, except Mars has been, desolate for, 350 million years or something? So, what is there, time travel involved? It doesn't, there's a lot of questions. But another question is that this stuff is so right out there in the plain open. Why doesn't anybody, focus on this? Right on Google Earth. You can go here yourself and look it up. You can look at all this stuff. Look at all this stuff up. Maybe you can find more stuff than I have. Probably can. So that's the whole gist of the deal. Try to get there and see what you can find, and leave a interesting, or leave a remark if you find something else, or whatever. Good hunting. Take it easy.